The special meeting of the Annapolis City Council on Monday, May 23rd, 2022 will be called to order at 7 p.m. At this time, would everyone join us for the invocation given by Alderman Tierney, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If you choose to bow your heads, I have a prayer. Dear God, thank you for giving me a message today for the invocation, and it was to be thankful. Thankful for the gift of empathy and love to our neighbor. As Jordan Edelstein in the opinion page of the Capitol this morning, having lost his home to a fire, but then realizing a year later that he had the strength mentally and physically to move on. But more significant and timely was because of a gracious and selfless community of friends, families, and neighborhood in Cape St. Clair, where Jordan will rebuild his home. Please, I know we can get back there in this beautiful city of Annapolis. Let's replace anger with empathy and love to discern if a fight is warranted or holding hands moving forward with solutions is the right path. We have gone through a global pandemic and will continue to have more challenges. So help us all to be thankful as Jordan Edelstein, but not wait for a tragedy to be so. Amen.
Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Present.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Here.
Alderman Finlayson. Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Here.
Alderman Gay.
Here.
Alderman Savage.
Present.
Alderman Arnett.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the first item on the agenda.
First item is approval of the agenda.
This time, I entertain a motion to approve the agenda
So moved.
as amended to add O16-22 Seasonal Parklet Program Standardized Lease Agreement Template.
On first reader?
Yep, on first reader.
Second.
Madam City Clerk?
Did the agenda as amended get a first? I put a motion forward before we said with the agenda amendment.
So move as amended.
Second.
Thank you. Madam City Clerk, please call the roll.
Yes, sir. Mayor Buckley.
Aye.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is ceremonial items and proclamations, beginning with ID 12922, National Gun Violence Awareness Day.
Can he read all of them so you can stay up there?
Yeah, we're going to read, we got a lot of proclamations tonight to say a huge thank you from the City of Annapolis. We are going to do them all in sequence. If you could go through and I'll, Mr. City Attorney, read the next.
Sure, I'll just go ahead and read them down. We've got National Gun Violence Awareness Day is first, ID 12922. Memorial Day, ID 13622. City Council citations, Morgan State University Smart Cities Case Competition participants, ID 13222. ID 13722, Reverend Jerry Colbert. ID 13922 is Wiley H. Bates Middle School Performing and Visual Arts Program. ID 122 is Charting Careers. 14122 is Dragon Boats. And 14622, Annapolis Community Foundation support of tornado victims.
Thank you. So ID 129-22, if you could come forward, I'll come up and meet you.
And good evening. City of Annapolis proclamation. Whereas every day 110 Americans are killed by gun violence, alongside more than 200 who are shot and wounded, and on average there are 16,000 gun homicides every year. And whereas Americans are 26 times more likely to be killed with guns than people in other high crime countries. And whereas Maryland has 743 gun deaths every year, with a rate of 12.4 deaths per 100,000 people. Maryland has the 32nd highest rate of gun deaths in the U.S. And whereas protecting public safety in the communities they serve is mayor's highest responsibility, and whereas support for the Second Amendment rights of law-abiding citizens goes hand in hand with keeping guns away from people with dangerous histories, and whereas gun violence prevention is more important than ever as the COVID-19 pandemic continued to exacerbate gun violence after more than 2 years of increased gun sales, increased calls to suicide and domestic violence hotlines, and an increase in city gun violence. And whereas in January 2013, Hadia Pendleton was tragically shot and killed at age 15. And on June 4th, 2021, to recognize her 24th birthday, people across America will recognize National Gun Violence Awareness Day by wearing orange to Hadia Pendleton and other victims of gun violence and the loved ones of those victims. Now, therefore, I, Gavin Buckley, Mayor of the City of Annapolis, Maryland, do hereby proclaim June 4th, 2022 as National Gun Violence Awareness Day in the City of Annapolis. Gavin Buckley, Mayor, in witness whereof I have hereunto set my hand and caused the Great Seal of the City of Annapolis to be affixed this 23rd day of May in the year of our Lord, 2022. Thank you.
Thank you for your hard work. If anybody wants to say a couple of words, we appreciate that.
I'm Laura Morris. I'm the local group lead for Annapolis for Moms Demand Action. As you heard the statistics, gun violence is rampant in this country, and it's escalating everywhere. Thankfully, Maryland has good, mostly good gun laws. We could always do better. And I want to thank the mayor for the support for the work that we do in trying to keep Annapolis families safe. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. So we have a Memorial Day proclamation. Who will be coming forward for that, please? Ellie? Just have to recognize Mayor Moyer in the audience. Please step forward, Mayor Moyer. Just want to say. Sorry, I didn't see you before. I would have identified you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for doing this. Can you hear me? This is a proclamation, and I'll read it. Whereas the last Monday in May is set aside each year to pay tribute to fallen heroes who had their lives defending our Constitution and our freedoms, and whereas with enduring respect and gratitude for their sacrifice, we hold in our hearts those who fought to preserve our way of life, never to see their loved ones again. And whereas Maryland has had fallen heroes who have served in conflicts from the Revolutionary War to both world wars, Korean, Vietnam, and the War on Terror. And whereas Annapolis, as home of the United States Naval Academy, has a proud tradition as the training ground for officers who will serve in the United States Navy and United States Marine Corps. And whereas Annapolis and Anne Arundel County are home to veterans cemeteries, and we hold dear those interred in our city, the county, and the state, as well as those who perished overseas and whose bodies were not returned home. And whereas in 1971, Congress established Memorial Day as a national day of remembrance for all Americans who have perished in our nation's wars. And whereas Annapolis recognizes the fallen by remembering those who have made the ultimate sacrifices. Now therefore, I, Gavin Buckley, Mayor of the City of Annapolis, Maryland, do hereby proclaim May 30th, 2022 as Memorial Day in the City of Annapolis. It's for you, Denise.
Do you want to take that, Lenny? Okay, next, Morgan State University. If you would like to step forward for the Smart Cities case competition, please. And before I read this, we'll give you a little bit of background. It's a very exciting thing initiated by Tola Adajaya from the Mayor's office. Tola, if you want to, here's a man, a few words, wants to say a few things about it.
I think we better. Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Mike Liggins. I'm a 2021 graduate from Morgan State University. And the idea was really spawned because Morgan has been doing a lot of great things as it relates to fintech and the future of technology and integrating it actually into the community. So the team came together and we looked at the demographic situation of Annapolis, what can be done to improve, resources to its constituents. And these are the lovely participants. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yes. I am Omalari Ola, a graduate student at Morgan State University studying advanced computing.
And my name is Alfred Murdoch III. I'm a freshman electrical engineering major.
Please, introduce yourself. Name and classification.
Sorry?
Name and classification.
Okay, my name is Temitope Ajibola, second year. My name is Temitope Ajibola, a second year MBA student with Morgan State University. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. So I'm just going to read a citation. This was a really exciting program. It's great to have the connection between the City of Annapolis and the amazing Morgan State Universities. These are future leaders of the country right on our doorstep, and I was excited to be part of this program, so thank you. So on behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we're pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in grateful recognition of your participation in the 2022 Smart City Case Competition held in Annapolis on April 23rd, 2022. The Mayor and the City Council would like to thank you for supporting the effort to make Annapolis a city that is more inclusive to all residents. Every person benefits when we create systems that utilize technology in smart ways. We are aware of the challenges faced by our constituents and believe in partnerships. The partnership of IBFS, that was one of the participants, and Morgan State and many community partners contributed to this perspective that is needed to face the challenges of tomorrow. Let's get a big round of applause for all these guys. Thank you so much. Now we have a million citations here, so I'm going to let Tola organise that for you, but can we take a photo with you guys? Sure. Yeah. I will. Tola? Reverend Jerry Colbert, please come forward. Can't believe you're retiring. We're not going to let you retire. I will, if anyone would like to read, I can read it for, yep. He's retired already. On behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of your work in the community and your retirement from John Wesley United Methodist Church, and to congratulate you on your 16-year pastoral anniversary. Aside from your spiritual stewardship, you are known as a people person and for your glorious singing voice and fellowship. We know in your retirement you will finally have time to catch up on things you didn't get to do during your busy pastoral ministry. Maybe friends and neighbours will see more of those amazing sweet potato pies and yummy chicken and dumpling dinners you are so expert in preparing. We wish you the best of luck in your future endeavours. Thank you for all you have done in serving the Annapolis community. We know you will keep doing the good work that you are known for. We just hope you take some time to relax and focus on things that you want to do. This city is so much better because of the Reverend Jerry Colbert. Let's have a round of applause for him. Thank you. And of course, we have Wally.
I just want to add one thing about Pastor Colbert. He is one of our lead chaplains in our police department, so he's not going anywhere. But I think his celebration is whatever day, Friday, I think it's June the 4th, that the church is preparing something wonderful for him. But God bless him, and thank you all so much.
So we have a lot of citations for the students of Bates. Is anyone here from Bates to come up, please? Okay, let's hear it for teachers. We love teachers. Best people in the whole world, and students. Thank you for what you do. Thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome. Future teachers, maybe? Thank you.
Future artists.
So such a talented art program at Bates. It is amazing. You do so much. So on behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you this City Council citation in recognition of the amazing artwork you created to help celebrate World Migratory Bird Day and Earth Day with the City of Annapolis. We are a bird city. If any of you get a chance to go to the Pitmoy Rec Centre and see their amazing work, it is unbelievable. People want to, you'll want to buy it. As a student, there we go. They're so talented. As a student at Wiley H. Bates Middle School and a participant in the Performing and Visual Arts program, we are lucky to have such an amazingly talented student artist. Thank you. And this is for Wiley H. Bates. And then we have individually ones for all of you guys. And we would love you to say a few words and thank you for what you do. Yeah, let's get a couple of photos here. I'll put this one down.
I'm not really good at this stuff. Shockingly, since I'm a teacher. We are always so amazed at our students on a regular basis, but also so privileged to have such support of Annapolis. We display stuff all over the place, and it is always phenomenal to have the support of a city and then awesome artists to back it up. So thank you very much.
All right, thank you. I got to do the most amazing thing last weekend. I got to ride on the dragon boat and beat the drum for this amazing group of women here. And I'll let you talk to the program when you come forward. Please come forward. I was out on Spar Creek. I'm on a dragon. There's 2 dragon boats out there. A beautiful boat with a whole bunch of people in period costume rode by us. We had tall ships in the harbour. The drawbridge was going up, and I thought anyone that would come to this city and saw what was happening on Spar Creek must have thought, what a fantastic place that we all live in. So we wanted to recognise what you have done and say a huge thank you. Have any of you guys been on the dragon boats yet or a chance? It's so cool. So I'm recommending that you all take a turn. And they didn't throw me in the water afterwards, so thank you so much. So on behalf of the residents of the City of Annapolis, we are pleased to confer upon you the City Council citation in recognition of your work to promote and develop the sport of dragon boating in Annapolis. Over the past 12 years, the Annapolis Dragon Boat Club has promoted and developed a healthy bodies and spirits supported recovery from breast cancer and all other cancers in both men and women, and facilitated the growth of true friendship and teamwork. Annapolis is a happier healthier, and more connected community because of your efforts to promote and develop the sport of dragon boating as a way to build strength, endurance, and confidence, all with an emphasis on recreation, synchronicity, harmony, while on the waters of our beautiful Spa Creek. We thank you for your contributions to the life of our community, for enhancing and growing our connections to the water, for the invaluable support for the cancer survivors, and for giving us all joy and pleasure every season. We congratulate your success and offer our deepest gratitude and appreciation. And I will take a few minutes just to honor the people that we've lost. Thank you. Let's have a big round of applause for this. And, someone has to speak.
I'm chairwoman of the foundation. My name is Joni Kraft, and I have been the chair since January, and I'm so honored to be part of this foundation that does so much for our breast cancer community as well as other cancer survivors. Our head coach is more eloquent, and he has been with the foundation since it began. Mike Ashford had the vision to found the club almost 12 years ago, and Peter has been beside us all the way. So let him say just a few words.
We're very honored to be recognized by the city. This recognition means something to all of us. As you see here, there's a dedicated group of people that are committed to a more healthful lifestyle and healthful living. The fun and camaraderie just happens to be a part of the ride. The mayor has already thrown down the gauntlet, though, city council members. Now you know what you have to do. But we do appreciate this honor very much, and thank you for your time. We appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, let's put the pedals up. It's going to get rowdy later. Could you stick around?
Yeah.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah. I'm coming out again, so. And the Annapolis Community Foundation, if you could come forward, thank you. All right. It's Mum. Yeah, we're doing it. Cool.
All I can say is wow. As many of you know, we had Tornado Ida back on September the 1st, which was devastating in Ward 3, especially in the Parole neighborhood. And we're still grappling and making sure that everyone is made whole. But we did have some residents, non-homeowners, who suffered as well. And you pray, and there are angels that appear. And my goodness, the Annapolis Foundation came and appeared. Mayor Moyer was the impetus to the Annapolis Community Foundation, and Mr. Eric kept with us every step of the way. Our Office of Emergency Management stepped in and were the conduits for all of this. And of course, our mayor is always on board with whatever we need for the residents. And I can't thank them enough. This has truly been a blessing. If you've ever seen one, this has been it. And I want to thank them all so very, very much for all that they've done and we'll continue to do to make sure that everyone is made whole again. But it was something we had never seen in our lifetime here. But you never know what's going to happen and who's going to be there for you. And I thank them so very, very much for what they have done. And we have this small token of our appreciation, a city council citation. And before I read it, I'd like for anyone here to make some comments.
So we were pleased and proud to be able to help a small group of citizens who suffered during the tornado and largely fell between the cracks. And so I want to thank Alderwoman Pindell Charles, Director Simmons, and Chris Mead, who's not here tonight, for their hard work in identifying those who needed assistance. And we were very happy to be able to help in this small way. Thank you.
If I can just say one word, because most of you have probably not heard of the Annapolis Community Foundation. We've been around for 20 years, and we're the little guys. We're not the big guys. We're the ones that were unique. There's no one else quite like us providing an umbrella 501c3 for a lot of different organizations that would like to be able to give out. We give grants smaller than the insurance companies do to people in need, and we've been doing this for about 20 years. So I want to thank you for recognizing us, because not too many people have, because we live in a world that doesn't always say thank you. And that's an important thing for all of us, I think, to remember. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your support.
I just want to thank you on behalf of 21 families from Annapolis Gardens that you've given grants to help them recover from this tornado. Thank you. And I understand after tonight, it's going to be 22, right?
In Annapolis. Often those who rent their primary residence do not have as many options when it comes to disaster assistance. This welcome donation provided by donors to the Annapolis Community Foundation helped to ensure that no one within the Annapolis community would go without needed financial relief following this devastating event. Your work and your donors' generosity went a long way to help victims of the tornado continue in their recovery. For the past 13 years and more, the Annapolis Community Foundation has awarded more than $160,000 to more than 50 Annapolis area organizations. We appreciate the Annapolis Community Foundation's commitment to serving the residents, and we commend you for their honorable mission presented to the Annapolis Community Foundation on this day, May 23rd, 2022. Thank you again, and God bless you.
Get a quick picture here, that's okay. Got my script up there. Are you guys from Charting Careers? Put your hands up if anyone's here from that. Charting Careers? Nope? Okay, great.
I know there is one young lady here who does work for Charting Careers, but I guess she's not representative tonight.
Okay.
But thank you.
Yes, we moved that one, but just, thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is petitions, reports, and communications, beginning with update from the mayor.
So good evening. I'd like to start out tonight by congratulating students in the class of 2022. Let's hear it for them. St John's graduates walked the stage on May 15th, and our graduating midshipmen from United States Naval Academy will be commissioned Friday morning with President Joe Biden delivering the commencement address. In the coming days, we will see all the usual commissioning week activities, including the Blue Angels practice on Tuesday and the flight show on Wednesday. Although the weather forecast is calling for rain, the show, as of this moment, will go on. If you plan on coming downtown, please check the city website for details on parking, alternate mobility options, and if you're out on your boat, maritime restrictions. I want to offer congratulations to all our graduates at every level, college, high school, on down to preschool. These are major milestones in their lives of our young people and, of course, their families. Please be alert to police directions as well as to tourists and families who have come to celebrate and who might have to exercise some patience and give ourselves extra time for our normal routines. Last week, I had the pleasure of kicking off our alternative mobility fair at Eastport Shopping Centre and City Dock. These events showcase the new Annapolis Go ride share, the free downtown shuttle, the electric tram, as well as our new vendor for scooters and e-bikes, Bird. These alternatives have been introduced at this time because of the closure of the Hillman Garage. We've all seen the scooters and the bicycles in other places, including close-in cities like DC and Baltimore, and historic cities like Alexandria and Richmond. We are happy to be joining them in enhancing and expanding transit options for our city. Let me set the stage for how we got here. Over the past few years, we have worked to upgrade our bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure, including upkeep on existing trails, as well as new markings on roadways called sharrows that remind those in vehicles to be on the lookout for bicycles and to remind those on bicycles and scooters to know where in the road is safest for riding. We are doing this because the world is changing and the need for alternative transit that helps take cars off the road and decarbonize our cities is growing all around the world. We may be accustomed to thinking that roads are just for cars, but roads are shared spaces. In fact, sharing the road is a city, county, and state of Maryland law. It is also the kind and polite thing to do. Over the centuries, Annapolis has been has seen many transportation evolutions. In a city built for pedestrians and horses, our roads are especially suited for alternate transit options. The historic and small scale of Annapolis and the slower speeds of our downtown streets make our city the ideal place for sharing the road, whether you're on 2 feet, in a wheelchair, or on a scooter or a bicycle. The electric scooters are new, but Annapolis has become a more bike-friendly town in recent years, thanks to the work of bicycle advocates for Annapolis and Anne Arundel County. If you are not a scooter or bike person, that's fine. Just know that the more you see folks out there on these other modes of transit, the less you will see them taking up parking spaces and creating traffic jams in their vehicles. Now, a couple of things you should know about Bird. They are a private company, and we have worked with them to manage this rollout in a phased way. We are on a week into the introductory phase. Some areas around town are geofenced, meaning the scooters won't operate in these places. That includes most of the trails in Truxton Park, the Naval Academy installation, St. John's College, Lawyers Mall, around the Maryland State House, cemeteries, public housing, and other parcels of private property. The public city streets closest to these parcels of private property are fully accessible. So you can ride a scooter right up to or from all of these areas. There is a 50% discount available for veterans and seniors and those in lower incomes to use Bird bikes and scooters. In addition, if you pick up or drop off a scooter or an e-bike from an underserved area, you are renting at 25% discount. That is intentional. We built this out to be inclusive and equitable. And over the past few days, I've been delighted to see people from all walks of life using them. There are always adjustments to make whenever something new is introduced. As we all adjust to this new, efficient and green way of travelling and to sharing our roads, let us remember to practice thoughtfulness and safety. For safety, you should absolutely wear a helmet. If you don't have a helmet, you can go to the safety section in the Bird app and order a helmet, and they'll ship it to you for free. We also plan on hosting a few bicycle safety events and helmet giveaways over the summer. Lastly, a reminder to those who rent scooters and bicycles, they must follow the rules of the road. Don't dodge in and out of traffic and run red lights. If you are in a motorised vehicle and not following traffic laws, APD can and will cite you. If you see a bike or scooter left in unsafe areas, you can report them through the Bird app and they will be moved, or you can move them yourself. Lastly, we will be collecting data and fine-tuning the rollout over the coming months. Feedback is important, so please provide feedback through the app and to help us make this program a success, just as it has been in similar historic cities. Follow the rules, be safe. This is the best part, and please have fun. We have a few parades coming up, and I want to highlight next Monday's May 30th. It is Memorial Day Parade, which steps off at 10 a.m. at Amos Garrett Boulevard and West Street and continues up West Street to Main Street and then down to City Top. Participants in the parade will include veterans and groups in the Naval Academy Band. That is Monday the 30th, and as a reminder, city offices are closed in observance of Memorial Day. Pip Moira and Stanton Centre will be closed as well. Transit runs on Sunday schedule and trash and recycling pickups are pushed forward a day. We honour those who made the ultimate sacrifice, and I'm pleased tonight to be presenting a proclamation recognising Memorial Day. Later in the week, on Saturday, June 4th, we will have the second annual Annapolis Pride Parade. That begins at the same spot, stepping off at Amos Garrett and West Street at noon. The Pride Parade will end at Calvert Street, where there will be a street festival. The first block of West Street will be closed with music, food and vendors from 1 to 5 p.m. At 5 p.m, they will switch to a special Saturday night of Dining Under the Stars. Should be fun. I hope to see you all there. Thank you all for being here, and let's get on with the meeting. Mr. City Attorney.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is report by committees.
Alderman Gay.
Okay, go ahead.
Awesome, thank you. We meet on June the 21st. It's a special meeting because June the 20th is observing Juneteenth here in the city. We'll finally be discussing the workforce zoning legislation, so that'll be exciting.
Thank you. Alderman O'Neill.
Transportation Committee will be taking place on Wednesday, June 8th, 4 p.m., and we will be talking about transportation.
Thank you. Alderman Pendle Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening. This report is a continuing update from our State of Annapolis Public Safety Address given at our council meeting on March 14th, which has resulted in instituting the initiative Annapolis United, Love Our Children, Love Our Neighbors, Peace is Here, and Stop the Violence. And Mr. Julian, could you pull up that banner, please, on the video? Thank you. Each one of you have been given green folders on your dais. Number one, the city department's budgets for fiscal year '23 were required to be submitted January, February 2022, prior to a more recent unprecedented surge in violence. Number two, on March 2nd, as a result of the continuing and escalating uptick in violence, especially gun violence, the Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department submitted their initial proposal, the Mayor's Initiative on Recreational and Educational Programming to Reduce Crime and Juvenile Delinquency in the City of Annapolis, Maryland. Three, on March 14th, seeing the former 2 months as a result of overwhelming community outcry and legitimate fear expressed by residents, community associations, and businesses throughout the city, I gave my State of Annapolis public safety address at the evening council meeting. 4, on March 14th at night and continuing into March 15th, Rec and Parks and the Police Department in particular and I, we started working on implementing the initiative Annapolis United, Love Our Children, Love Our Neighbors, Peace is Here, Stop the Violence, along with adding other possible components to the initiative, which involve many discussions, meetings, emails, etc. 5, on March 20th, as a result of a continuing uptick in violence, and in my address on March 14th, Annapolis Rec and Parks augmented and added to their original proposal, which had originally been submitted on March 2nd. Number 6, on March 24th, we launched the first component of our Annapolis United initiative, namely Annapolis' Most Wanted, where within less than 72 hours, a suspect wanted for a variety of handgun and related charges, turned himself into police. Since March 24th, this component has since been renamed Annapolis Police Department's Protect and Serve Community Updates to more accurately reflect its biweekly purpose. 7, since March 24th, our Annapolis United team, namely Rec and Parks, Police, Office of Emergency Management, and Fire Department, practically on a daily basis, has been working diligently to develop and fine-tune a variety of programming for our children, families, and communities, keeping in mind that there's a holistic approach to addressing violence as well as addressing and improving the quality of life in our city. Literally programming implemented that will affect our residents from prenatal to pensioners, as well as our veterans, and where criminals and trigger pullers are held accountable and residents, businesses, and visitors are safe, growing, and thriving. 8, today as we continue to fine-tune our plans, working on a multitude of levels, we continue to discuss programming that we had not thought of even the day before. Hence, we have drafted and have submitted amendments mainly for one-time funding toward the full adoption and funding by our council and mayor, recognizing that this very important work continues to be a work in progress. Work to this degree that could not have been anticipated in January and February when the department's budgets were due. Hopefully, the Annapolis Recreation and Parks budget, along with fully funding of these amendments, will capture a majority of what our city needs to combat and continue to combat this violence as we work toward an improved quality of life for all of our residents, businesses, and visitors. And we will continue to recognize that our history plays a vital role in understanding the importance of Annapolis United, truly an outgrowth and component of One Annapolis. And when we talk about, and some of the amendments concern equity, and Mr. Julian, can you pull up the little cartoon? And I think it's painfully obvious the difference between equality and equity when you look at this photograph. They are not the same. Also, I am continuing to accept any updates from City College on recruitment of one officer from their ward. I made the recruitment plea to Annapolis area clergy as well, and I'm putting it out there to the public again. Can you recruit one officer? What better way for an Annapolis resident, especially one that has a deep connection to our Annapolis area, to serve and to minister to one's own community? What a wonderful opportunity for someone to shape and to mold how you see and believe your community should be. Our next Public Safety Standing Committee meeting usually would be scheduled for Monday, June 6th at 4 here in John T. Chambers Council Chambers, but that date has been changed due to the day-long special full council budget meeting from 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. on June 6th. Instead, the meeting will be held on Tuesday, June 7th, 4 p.m. here in Council Chambers. We will have an Annapolis United update from our Annapolis Recreation and Parks Department, and updates are optional from our Office of Emergency Management, Annapolis Fire Department, and Annapolis Police Department. And we may have a special guest and nonprofit regarding our Harbor House Resource Center. Thank you all so very much.
Thank you. Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The Finance Committee met May 18th, where we gave a favorable recommendation to supplementary appropriation 25-22 and fund transfer FT 11-22, which are on the consent calendar tonight. And the next meeting will be Monday, June 1st at 10:30 a.m.
Thank you. Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just to inform the public, at our last Environmental Matters Committee meeting on May 12th, which is available online if they wanted to look at it, we received a presentation from the fire department and also from Public Works. The fire department presented on a chemical called PFAS, which is per and polyfluorinated substances. This is a chemical that's contained in a lot of different materials, but in particular in firefighting foam, which they use to put out petroleum fires. And this foam was, the legislation passed the state to ban this foam's use by 2024. So we discussed how much it would cost for us to eliminate using it, basically disposing of it, but also purchasing alternative foam ASAP before 2024, because that foam, our fire department doesn't use it very frequently, but again, those PFAS chemicals persist in our environment for thousands of years, and they are believed to very likely cause cancer and various other health ailments. And so we're looking to get that included in the budget as an amendment. And also those PFAS chemicals are included in some of the firefighting gear, their protective equipment. And so we're looking to see how much it's going to cost to replace all of their older gear. And it's just so we can ensure the firefighters are safe and also to ensure those chemicals aren't getting further washed into the waterways. But again, at the committee meeting, we gave a presentation. There was a 10-minute video which kind of summarized some of the concerns with these chemicals. And the good news as part of that, we also received reports afterwards from the Department of Public Works that we do not have any detectable quantities of this chemical in our waterway. And so because we do very deep water wells, so that is good news. The presentation from Public Works had to do with our stormwater watershed restoration fund. And just quickly on that, I'm pleased to report that we are on track to exceed our watershed implementation plan, the state requirements in terms of we have to treat, I think it's 20% of our impervious surface and by a certain year, and we are again well on track to exceed that if we maintain the plan that we've laid out. So if people want any details on that, they can tune into the meeting. Our next meeting is going to be at an unusual date because of a conflict, so we'll be meeting on Wednesday, June 22nd at 4 p.m. And I hope to get a report on some of the pollution leaving the Eastport Shopping Center property from the old dry cleaners and the old gas station there. Thank you.
Thank you. Alderman Shanaway.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Economic Matters will be meeting on Wednesday, June 15th at 6:30 p.m.
Thank you. Alderman Pindell-Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think, or maybe I could be wrong, I don't know if that piece of legislation is on our agenda for our next Public Safety Committee meeting. I'm sorry. Okay. If you can add that, that would be great. The PFAS legislation for the fire department.
They're just budget amendments.
Okay, I thought it was a piece of legislation. Okay, all right, thank you. And I indicated to Alderman Savage that I would be supporting that amendment. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is comments by the general public.
Okay. All right, first up is Denise Robertson. Please come forward.
I'm probably going to take a little bit more than the 3 minutes allotted, but I think these gentlemen deserve more than 3 minutes. You were all, when you came in, you found packets on your envelopes from the Legacy of Honor. I started that several years ago because I realized a lot of people think of Memorial Day as just the headstones, and it's not. Behind every headstone, there's a story. There's a man, there's a husband, there's a daughter, there's a brother, there's a father. There's children who grow up never knowing their dads, their moms. And on this day, Memorial Day, is the one day that we pay homage to them. And we owe them that. When I was little, people asked why I started it. When I was little, I never knew what my grandfather's voice sounded like. I never knew what his touch felt like. I don't know what his smile looks like. I don't know anything. I've said his name millions of times, Lieutenant Marlon Robert Kopp, but he's never said mine because he died serving in World War II. He's one of the 400,000 men that never came home. So the only thing I had that I knew what felt like were his dog tags. And I treasured these because these were around his neck at Guadalcanal. The book that's being passed around was given out to all the Catholic members of the 29th Infantry when they loaded the boat on September 26, 1942 on their way to England. That book landed on Omaha Beach at 10:45 a.m. It was part of the second wave. It made it through the battle, Operation Cobra, pushed its way through France, and it came to the end of its journey on the beaches of the Ruhr River in Germany. Its owner now lies in the Netherlands cemetery. The only thing the mother has to hold onto was that book that came back with his possessions in box 141 in 1946. So what I've done as a Legacy of Honor, what you will find in your packets is you're going to find a little USB thing. In that, when you open it up, you will see the person's name, the rank, when they were enlisted, where they died, and more importantly, you're going to see who their mother was, their father was, their brothers, their sisters, their wives, their children. Every man, and then you'll see in the notes, every man has a story. I've put the address where that dreaded telegram came, so you can see where they fall in your district. You can see the men, you can walk around and see the impact that it had on Annapolis. What you'll see is what I've been doing as Legacy of Honor. I've been working with the Fields of Margraten, Faces of Margraten, Fields of Honor, and I took a sample from them where they've been trying to find photographs of all the 9,000 men that are buried in their cemetery, so people no longer see the headstones, they see their stories. So as you can see, the first one, that's Hector DeZaza. As you can see, he grew up in Eastport on Burnside. He learned to fish in Back Creek. He was a graduate of the United States Naval Academy, class of 1932. He was awarded the Navy Cross for heroism in the Battle of the Solomon Islands. He was killed in Guam on 26 July 1944. When the soldiers took Guam and raised the first flag, it came back and was presented to his widow. He was a father to Jose Jr. He was also a wife to Helen, who was the society editor of the Capitol. And more importantly, he was the only son of Hector and Annabelle. There's one more to go. So then you have David Curriclot. Where you're sitting, he played. His father was the mayor of Annapolis. His grandfather was the mayor of Annapolis. His great-grandfather was the mayor of Annapolis. At 4 years old, he would run these halls. He went to the Naval Academy like his dad, but then quit because he decided he didn't like the academy and he wanted to be a Marine. He then went off to Marines. He met a lovely woman, and he was stationed, he was part of the commanding force of 1st Battalion, 23rd Marines. They learned to do the beach landing in Chesapeake. When they were in Chesapeake, his family moved back up and lived at Prince George's. When you watch down Prince George Street, there's 5 houses that received that telegram. In November of 1943, he was sent to the Pacific as an advisor. He was going to be taking notes for the upcoming landings. When they had a Tarawa, they didn't plan for the reefs. So when the landing crafts came in, they hit the reefs and couldn't go to the beach. Well, he grew up swimming in Back Creek and in the Severn River. And he saw men coming out of those landing crafts and starting to drown. The waters were being strafed with bullets, and he dove in. He was an observer. He didn't have to, but he did. He dove in, they said, over 25 times and put men back on the LST so they could go back to the ships to get medical treatment. For that, he was awarded the Silver Star. He landed on the beach of Tarawa, and as he was running notes to tell where the positions were of the enemy, he was shot and killed. He lied dying on the beaches of Tarawa, and they brought him home in 1948, and he's buried at the Naval Academy. He is buried just a few feet away from Senator John McCain. You can show his picture there. Now, all these men have stories, and all of them being told. The next one is what you don't realize. That's David Kerr. The next one is Hugh Wesley. What's interesting about Hugh is I found his widow. I thought for sure she had passed away. I traced her, and I found her in Washington State. Lillian Till, he met her in Columbia, South Carolina, when he was getting ready to transfer out. He was a Marauder bombardier. He told her, if I don't come back, you need to live without me. And she made that promise, and she did. When I called him, she said, she started crying, and I asked her what was wrong. It was January of 2020. And she said, I haven't heard his name spoken for decades. These names are being forgotten, and nobody's speaking them. Their children, their widows want to hear their names. They want to know they're remembered. When he was brought home in 1948, he died in a crash in the Battle of the Bulge. When he was brought home, the mayor of Annapolis attended his funeral, as did most of Annapolis, and they promised, we will not forget him. We will always remember. Yet, as you can tell by his gravesite that I visit and try to take care of, Annapolis has forgotten, and we have to do better. Now we have the last one is Russell Meade. He was originally part of the 29th Infantry, but he decided he wanted to do more. So when the Army was asking for recruits to sign up for a new unit called the paratroopers with the highest risk, he said, sign me up. So he went, he passed the test, and he left. His first landing was part of the 82nd Airborne, was at Sicily. His second landing, he was one of 11 Marylanders that landed on behind Normandy in St. Mary-Glise in the early morning hours of June 6, 1944. He went back, he went for his third attempt for a jump. He successfully landed at Operation Market Garden, but the next day he was killed while defending the bridge to allow the troops to get over. It was because of him I found out about the faces of Mark Rotten. And it's because of him I decided that every single man needs to have their photos shown. In 2025 will be the 80th anniversary of the end of World War II. That is the war that had the biggest impact on Annapolis. And what I'd like to see is the city council help me reach that goal of finding photographs of every man who died from Annapolis. The hardest trouble I'm having, and the ones I consider the biggest heroes, are African-American soldiers. They signed up, they volunteered for freedoms they didn't even have. They were promised so much from the military that they were never given. This past Saturday was the anniversary of the West Loch disaster, which I imagine most people have never heard of. That happened in Pearl Harbor. It was the 29th Contamination Unit. It was an all African-American unit. They were loading munitions onto the ships to go over for the next Marianas Island invasion. They weren't trained properly because basically they were expendable in a lot of people's eyes. Well, they had an explosion and they died. Over 100 and some men instantly vanished. One of them was Ralph Parker from Annapolis. He grew up on Clay Street and moved to where we now have the Gott's Garage. And it just bothers me every time I drive by that garage, knowing that they lost their only son and then they lost their home to the government when we came in and took the land. So I really wish that we need help getting all their photos, all their stories. So I know, Mr. Mayor, you're good at videos. I'm not. I have folders, stories of every single man there. I have their independent death reports. I have after air crew reports. I have missing crew reports, after action reports. I can take you from a lot of them from when the time they were born, and what the city should be doing is when you do those fun little videos leading up to the 80th anniversary is going to these homes so people can start putting faces and stories with these men, because Annapolis has a very proud history. We are a military town and we need to honor these men.
Thank you. Thank you, Denise. Thank you. Thank you for all your work on that, and thank you to all the families in this city who have sacrificed. I'm sure there's not one person in the city of Annapolis that hasn't been touched by war, so thank you. Next up is Ann Katzeff. All right, don't see Ann Katzeff. Going once, thank you. Is that it? Nope. Okay. Denise Entel? Ertel, sorry.
That's okay.
Looks like it am. Sorry, I apologize.
I scribble. I was a nurse. I never wrote right. I'm on. Thank you for
State
this
your full name and address. Thank you.
Oh, that's
Thank
right.
you very
Okay, this is my
much.
first time here because I'm retired now.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you. It feels great. Never going to work again, just volunteering a lot in the area. My name is Denise Ertel. I live over at 100 Severn Avenue, number 405, downtown Eastport there, and I absolutely love it. For the past 18 years, I know everybody works hard. I covered both beltways, and I didn't see the time of day. And with all the taxes that just keep going up and up and up, I was all retirement packed up to move. Last spring, had my place all cleaned up. I have 25 cases packed. Gave away a little too much because then I decided not to move. I started sailing and actually enjoying what I moved to Annapolis for many years ago. But I do oppose the increase in the property tax. We have our federal tax, we have our state tax, and I don't know what's happened with retirees. I didn't hear anything more about that once something was signed. We have I am privileged to live downtown. We have our Annapolis tax, and property tax just keeps going. Everything keeps going up. What I see is a lot of people selling their homes, getting a condo because they don't want to leave all their family and friends, but then they move out of state, and they move out of state for over 6 months, and then there's less taxes and less shopping and less help, going to our restaurants and everything. So I think all the taxes have run people out. My brother said, come back to Pennsylvania. I'm like, that's not happening. I live in Annapolis. But I have considered going to Florida. Friends in Charleston want me there, and families over in Rehoboth. And for now, I'm enjoying Annapolis, and I want to stay here where I am. I'll do more in the community. I joined CRAB. There's a new cancer sailing group starting a chapter here. I don't know, I started doing a little too much, but I love this area, I love this community, but I just don't want to be priced out. And so, and after Denise's talk, I feel bad even talking about this because my dad was a World War II vet, and I did get to know him well. And he did get the Silver Star, Bronze Star, and Purple Heart, and I just wanted to say that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Denise. The property taxes aren't going up.
Pardon me?
The property taxes are not going up.
Are not?
Yeah. And our property taxes are actually lower than Florida's. So.
Yes, but there's other things. I know. It's you know what? It's a balance.
And I think the county, we can't control the county assessments, but I think they've froze their assessments this year, and there's a decrease in the county tax assessment as well.
Good, because a lot of people in our
we don't
building,
want you to leave.
No,
Please stay.
I want to stay. I started doing all sorts of things that I did 20 years ago when I moved here and forgot existed. And but I see a lot of people in my building are part-timers. I mean, my floor is half empty, and I don't know when they'll be back, but it's getting hot in Florida, so I imagine they'll be back soon. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And the information.
Thank you. Natalie Powell, next.
Thank you for having us tonight. Thank you, Mr. Mayor and council persons. I'm Natalie Benincasa Powell, Ward 8, 312 Severn Avenue in Annapolis, Maryland. First, I'd like to thank Denise Robinson. What a historical, amazing person this is. And I'd like to request that we use that empty shadow box right there, just like we did for the mayors over there. for military. And maybe it could be changed every so often, like a bulletin board in school. I did those in grade school. But she's the one to do it right there, and the videos. Okay, I'm here to speak tonight to request protection for a property in Eastport in Ward 8 that you probably are familiar with, that I sent an email last week about. There's a historical home that's a duplex in Eastport behind the Mercedes-Benz of Annapolis dealership on Burnside Street. 337 and 339 is a duplex that was built in 1905. Sometime back in the city, a report was even done, Historical and Cultural Resources of Eastport, 1851 to 1949. And in this report, the duplex was deemed historic to Eastport, contributing to the use, style, and date construction of this home. So, Burnside is actually named William H. and Sarah Burns was the estate, and around the turn of the century, the Burns divided this land and sold it out into parcels. There's a lot of history here. Even the women's suffrage meeting was held in the backyard. Apparently, this renter that lives here was given a 30-day vacate after she was asked to pay her rent and that everything would be fine. And now she's given a 30-day vacate because the property was sold, she has told me, Joanne Davis, to the dealership with full intention of tearing the trees down, the historical house down, and extending the parking lot. Now, what does that do to the neighbors right around that whole area? What does that do to the tree canopy? What does it do to water runoff? And this is historical. I don't know if it's on the record yet, but here tonight I'm requesting that you check into it and protect it. She has 1 week to go, and their landscaper has already taken over doing the landscaping on the property, and they were taking measurements yesterday. How can that happen? Don't we need houses? We need housing, we need trees, and I'm here to fight for her. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to come forward and speak? Just, Denise, you've had, yeah, quickly.
Just really quick, the shells that are on that I put there are from the beaches of Okinawa.
Oh, wow.
You have coming the mail, we're waiting for a lot of things to get through customs. But the two battles that hit Annapolis the hardest were the Battle for Okinawa and the Battle of Normandy. So you have shells that arrived from Okinawa that you have there, and you have shells coming from Normandy. So you each have a little something to put on your desk.
Thank you.
Lanny Hartman, 7244 Riding Hood Circle, Columbia, Maryland. Good evening, Mr. Mayor and members of the council. I drive an electric car, and when I visit Annapolis, I charge my car here. And I want to thank you for all the work that you've done to get more charging stations here. I'm charging my car right now about a half a mile away. About 2 years ago, you passed an ordinance to keep the charging stations open and from being blocked by non-electric cars. And last week, Governor Hogan signed a statewide law very similar to your local ordinance. But both of those laws depend on proper signs being posted. And the signs need to be official signs that conform to the highway standards. Something like this that you see on the side of the road in order to be enforced. It also has to have the amount of the fine, like you see in ADA spots, the fine is on there. To date, I haven't seen any signs being posted. I know that there was a lot of talk, both when the council passed the ordinance, as well as at the State House about Pip Moyer Center in particular. A lot of people, the lawmakers, their family members were being blocked from charging there, and they made a comment about that. So there's two points that I want to make. If there's no signs, there could be no fines. Also, the sign doesn't warn people that they're not supposed to park there, and that's really what we're trying to do. And the other thing is R2422, which I believe has a first reading tonight. It's the fine schedule, and in the description of that, the fine for that ordinance, which is $100 in Annapolis, that $100 is the same fine that the state set, by the way. It says something about that the electric drive vehicle must be actively charging. That's what it says in the fine schedule, but it doesn't actually say that in the code itself. I was wondering if maybe an amendment could be put forward to clarify that when it goes through here. So thank you for your time.
I'm sorry, is he able to repeat
Still in
that?
public hearing, so you have a chance to put that in.
Oh, I didn't, I just wanted him to repeat, I couldn't hear the recommendation, but.
Can you repeat those recommendations for Alderman Tierney?
The recommendation is signs.
No, the amendment.
To clarify, right now, the fine schedule says, the description of it says parking reserved for plug-in electric drive vehicles actively charging. See, like, I'm actively charging now. If for some reason my car stops charging because there's something with the equipment or it fills up, I can't just immediately unplug. The law doesn't have that language. The state law doesn't have that language either. So you might want to clarify that so there's no confusion, so that I don't get a ticket if we run long here and I don't get back before my car stops charging, you see?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Appreciate that.
And I'm looking forward to the electric ferry that you have.
Lots
I'm
of
very
people are.
excited about that.
He's from Columbia.
Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward and speak? Please come forward. Yep. You could just make a statement if you like. We're here to listen, so not probably answer questions, but I can get you someone if you need.
My name is Sandy Dollar. I live at 115 Archwood Avenue in Murray Hill. My hope is that we will have more transparency as to what's going on with the bike and the bird program and the scooter. I know you mentioned that we can directly comment on the bird application, I think you said. I'm curious as to how the city council gets word on what the commentary is. You also mentioned that it's in a trial run. I'm curious as to when it's decided that you will continue with that trial run.
So we're going to have a post-meeting with the bird people soon. So and we probably will have some time for some public comment then. So it is a trial, and we're going through that right now.
And where do we provide
So
that information to make sure you get it?
You can reach out to the city. So Hillary Raftovich is an ombudsman, so please reach out to her and we'll get you in the process. Hillary, yeah. Thank you.
I'll get you her contact.
And also, if you want to reach out to your Alderman Tierney from Ward 1. Thank you. Anybody else like to come forward? Okay, seeing no more, I declare comments by the general public closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is consent calendar, supplemental appropriation SA 2522 and FT fund transfer FT 1122.
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Gay.
I'd like to remove SA 2522 from the consent calendar.
Can I get a second? Right. So does he have to do a motion on that? No. So the motion is to move the consent calendar as addressed without that being pulled off, so.
Mr. Mayor, point of order.
Yeah.
If I could, the city council and some of the staff is not even abreast of the requirement if we accept this $30,000 from the county, I think it's imperative that we have the discussion. I've put an amendment in our budget that would go hand in hand with this fund transfer, and so I think they should know about it before we pass it. But if not, then it doesn't matter.
I think we
Point
have.
of order.
Yep.
Mr. Mayor, what we've done in the past is once it's moved, somebody can remove something from the consent calendar, and then it gets moved again with the items removed.
I'm sorry, I heard a motion to approve the consent calendar and a second as shown on the agenda. Not sure that there was any modification of that. I didn't hear a modification of the consent calendar.
But
Well, typically there's a
how would
separate.
you like us to move that if he wants to modify the consent calendar?
I did not hear about, the only motion I heard was to move the consent calendar.
Well, typically, there's the mayor asks a question about if any of us want something removed from the consent calendar first. And I didn't hear that.
And yeah, I didn't hear the mayor.
Maybe I didn't say it loud enough.
Yeah, I didn't hear the mayor.
I said before you called the question, I'd like
accepting
to
anything
remove
else.
SA 2522.
Okay, so do you want to, if you need to do that, like you always do?
I mean, don't.
Okay, so
We don't have to clarify it. I mean,
Right.
Could we, with
Well, we're in discussion, and so this is, what clarification do you need about that? We are discussing the whole
Okay.
motion right now. Says Jody.
if you'd like, I can share
Sure,
my
Dickinson,
amendment. Thank
yeah.
you. I hate when you all get attitudes with me.
You don't, can I just say something? There's no, okay, for the record, there's no discussion on the consent calendar. Once the
That's-
motion to adopt the consent calendar is made, there's a second, and then Alderman Gay can make his recommendation to remove something from the consent calendar, and then you can adopt this consent calendar without the thing that he requested to be removed. And that moves to the bottom of the agenda.
So do you want to make that recommendation, Alderman Gay? Let's just do that. Thank you.
Okay, so Alderman Arnett moved the consent calendar. Alderman Gay removed an item, SA 25 from the consent calendar. Now we're ready to do the roll call vote on the consent
But-
calendar with one item.
But doesn't he, he's got to move to remove it or not? Or he just moved
He can,
it?
you can just pull it, he can just say it. It
You
comes
can
up.
just say it. Okay, thank you.
I was following the rules. It's been that way since I've been on the council.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
I don't know, we're moving
We're moving the
One
consent
item,
calendar
FT 11.
minus one item, SA 2522.
It's a roll call.
It's a roll call. Thank you. Aye.
Thank you, Mayor Buckley. Now I forgot who the roll call. Alderman Pennell Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shannon Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye, thank you.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
Okay, so the consent calendar has been approved.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is business and miscellaneous, supplemental appropriations over 50,000, SA 2622, parking fund revenue.
Is there a motion to approve SA 26-22?
So moved.
Second.
A discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
The next item on the agenda is public hearings continued, 01522, annual budget and appropriation property tax levy.
Have no speakers.
Huh?
No speakers.
Anybody like to come forward and speak on that, please? Accepted the record, 015-22, annual budget and appropriation and property tax levy, proposed capital budget. Thank you. I declare the public hearing on 0-15-22 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R2322, fiscal year 2023 fees schedule.
Anybody here to speak on R23-22?
No speakers.
Thank you. I declare the public hearing on R-23-23 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R2422, fiscal year 2023 fines schedule.
Alderman Savage, what's up? You want to move it? No.
I was just going to request that the testimony from the gentleman about the EV gets added to this, since he was talking about the, can we do that? Since he was talking about the fines.
Sure. Thank you. Nobody here to speak on R-24-22. Thank you. I declare the public hearing closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. We're in public hearings. ID 12022, City of Annapolis, notice of a proposed real property tax increase.
You gotta read the whole thing. 'Cause they have to read
Sorry,
the whole-
got to read the whole thing, I'm afraid.
You gotta read the whole thing.
Sorry. Let me do that again. Public hearings, beginning with ID 12022, City of Annapolis, notice of a proposed real property tax increase. The City Council of City of Annapolis proposes to increase real property taxes. For the tax year beginning July 1, 2022, the estimated real property assessable base will increase by 0.9% from $7,364,682,370 to $7,429,020,038. If City of Annapolis maintains the current tax rate of 0.7380% per $100 of assessment, real property tax revenues will increase by 0.9%, resulting in $474,812 of new real property tax revenues. In order to fully offset the effect of increasing assessments, the real property tax rate should be reduced to 0.7316%. The real property tax rate should be reduced to $0.7316, the constant yield tax rate. The City of Annapolis is considering not reducing its real property tax rate enough to fully offset increasing assessments. The City of Annapolis proposes to adopt a real property tax rate of $0.738 per $100 of assessment. This tax rate is 0.9% higher than the constant yield tax rate and will generate $474,812 in additional property tax revenue.
Thank you. Anybody like to come forward and speak? Thank you. I declare ID 12022 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item in public hearings is 0622, medical cannabis dispensaries.
Anybody here to speak on O-6-22?
Mr. Mayor.
Alderman Pendell Charles.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've received 3 texts from 3 residents in Ward 3 totally opposing this. I just want to put that on the record as a continuing opposition. I know I've talked to Alderman Gay, and we're going to have some additional discussions. Thank you.
Thank you. I accept into the record the finding of O-6-22 medical cannabis dispensaries from the Planning Commission dated May 5th, 2022. I declare the public hearing on O-6-22 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is R3122, position classifications and pay plan.
Anybody here to speak on R-31-22? Thank you. I declare the public hearing on R-31-22 closed. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item is legislative actions, beginning with first readers. The first item is R3222, Chesapeake Bay Trust, Anne Arundel County and City of Annapolis Watershed Restoration Grant Program Permit Fees Waiver.
Is there a motion to adopt R-32-22 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. I'd like to refer R-33-22 to the Finance Committee, sorry. Although, any discussion? Yeah.
Environmental
And Environmental
Matters Committee, please.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, sir. The next item on the agenda is R3322, support for abortion rights and United States Supreme Court decision in the case of Roe versus Wade, for the purpose of expressing council support for the decision in the case of Roe v. Wade.
Thank you. Is there a motion to adopt R-33-22 on first reader?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Yes, the next item on the agenda was added at the approval of the agenda. It's O1622, Seasonal Parklet Program Standardized Lease Agreement Template.
Is there a motion to adopt O-16-22 on first reader?
So moved.
Second.
Second, thank you. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Thank you. Is that one we need to just suspend the rules for that, or? Mr. City Attorney?
You do.
Yep.
If you want to pass it on first. You do.
So for the parklets, could we get a motion to suspend the rules to get it to second reader so that they can get some of the cafes open or not?
I will make that motion.
I will second that motion.
Thank you. Some discussion. Alderman Gay.
Are we able to see what the template looks like? Are we able to see what the template or the standard leasing agreement template looks like?
I think Alderman Arnett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The proposed rulemaking was reviewed by the Rules Committee. The City Council does not have any approval authority over regulations, so once the proper procedure was followed, which was that it be posted on the city's website and posted in the paper, and 30 days expired with no comments to the contrary, that regulation automatically became a regulation. It should already be in effect. It doesn't need any action by the City Council.
Okay.
I believe I'm correct, Mr. City Attorney? When we passed O2621, the City Council only gave itself the right to review regulations within 30 days. We did not give ourselves the right to approve regulations.
I'm not sure of what was before the rules. Was this standardized template before the rules?
Yes, we've had two rules that have been promulgated, one by the harbor master and this one for the parklets, both of which were duly heard by the Rules Committee, and we fulfilled the obligation to review it. We did not and cannot make any amendments to the rules. We can suggest to staff things, and in fact, some things were suggested, but the way we passed that ordinance last year, we did not give the City Council authority to approve rules and regulations. The whole point for going to rules and regulations is so you would not have to go through the same process as doing an ordinance. So at this point, now if the council has a problem with a rule or regulation, we can change an ordinance such that it would have an effect on it, but we haven't recommended to do that. So the Rules Committee heard it, and we fulfilled the obligation, as did the city staff.
And I'm sure we all want to get to the same place here, and for the general public, it is commissioning week. There are a few restaurants that are asking to open their outdoor cafes during this busiest week of the season, and they would like to be able to do that tomorrow. So I think we all want to get there. Alderman Tierney was next, and then Alderman Savage.
I think I still have the floor, because I asked a question, and Alderman Arnett automatically jumped in without my last question. There is indication of, obviously, some financial impact, but we don't have a fiscal note. Is there an estimation of what would be received from the parklets, or has that been discussed as well?
I think it's been fully vetted, yeah. Mr. City Manager?
So we didn't do a fiscal impact statement because this came up late, but we do have standard rates that have been established. There was a working group that was set up that was led by Stephen Rice that developed the rates per parking spot, and it includes capital facilities charges because the restaurant will have additional capacity, so they use more water, so it actually includes those types of fees as well.
Was that presented to the council? I don't remember.
It was to the Rules Committee as part of the regulation.
So could you give us a general idea before we suspend the rules and pass this tonight on what the fee would be?
I'll see if I can find that information. I don't have it at my fingertips.
Thank you so much.
So I think Alderman Tierney was next, then Alderman Savage.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to offer some clarification that what's before us is a standardized lease for the parklets. We understand that that the process has been followed, Alderman Arnett, that the furnishings and everything else has gone through rules and city government. But what's before you is the lease agreement. What the city intends to do is to lease, the street, which is public property, and the applicants will go through a pretty thorough vetting, as you can, if you want to look at it. It is on the city website, the whole policy of having a parklet. But ultimately, they will have a lease with the city. So that's what we're voting on tonight. As per the work group that started, I don't know how many months ago, all of the steps have been followed. There is a portal on the website so that you can see the procedure and what the applicant has to go through to get a parklet, which is pretty substantial. I believe the rate for downtown has not changed from what's posted. So I just wanted to make it clear that this is the lease agreement, not what was brought before rules in city government.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager, for some clarification on that.
Yeah, so this was Appendix B to the process that went to the Rules Committee, and it's different rates for different parts of the city. So for Forest Drive, it would be $20.44 per day per parking space. Upper West would be $16.60 per day per parking space. The Design District, $17.43. Eastport's $19.10. West Annapolis is $35.81. The Arts District on West Street is $30.48, and downtown Main Street is $50 per day. So I can send that out to everybody if you'd like.
Thank you, Alderman Savage and Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So to clarify, you say this is passing, approving a new lease template, and not the rules and regulations. I'm looking at the end of the ordinance, and it says the city manager shall, within 60 days from passage, promulgate all necessary rules and regulations to effectuate and implement this ordinance. So I guess you're saying this is, I guess, to Alderwoman Tierney, and to the city manager, this is different from the rules and regs that went to the Rules and Government Committee?
No, that's what that's referring to.
Oh, that's, okay. Well, because my recollection is the same as Alderman Arnett's, is that because I think I co-sponsored that with you, we had the rules and regs go to the committees to prevent it from having to come back to the entire council, where the committees just review. They don't even vote to support. They just review it and get briefed on it. So that's my one question. The second question is it's listed as an ordinance, but it's written more like a resolution in the sense, the ordinance, this doesn't actually establish anything in our code. Is this appropriate? Should it be an ordinance like this, or should it be a resolution? Because it's a little different from what.
Yeah, sales or rental of land is an ordinance under the code. Additionally, as I'm reflecting now, there were regulations on the specifications on parklets and the use of parklets and all of that, but the lease is different only because in order for the city to lease land that it owns, it's got to come back to the council for an ordinance to allow that leasing or sale of land. So the parklet lease wasn't even considered in the regulations. I was pulling up my history. Okay. We had specifications, how long you have them out there, you got to pull them up. Those specifications were before rules of city government. But when we got to the point of having to lease the land and get money for that has to come back to the council.
Now I understand. Thank you, City Attorney.
Alderman O'Neill.
I just wanted to say, in response to Alderman Gay's question on page 2, line 13, it says the standardized lease agreement template attached here to incorporates the C's, but we don't have the attachment.
She didn't attach the template.
So he's been asking for a copy of the lease, and it should have been attached to this ordinance, but it does not appear to be.
Can we get that for Alderman Gay to analyze, please? Thank you.
Well, we kind of have to have it, I think, to pass this, right?
Was the intent to attach it, Mr. Lyles?
Yes. There was an intent to attach. Exactly.
So can we get a copy of that before we vote on that or not? How hard is it?
Probably not.
Nope.
Miss-
Can we vote on it if we don't have a copy?
I can make sure we get a copy if everyone would like to wait. But we do not have a legislative person, and we've been doing this on the fly, and we apologize. We were asked to do it over and above the time that we normally take to do and vet these kinds of things, and here's what you have. Now, I can go get it and come right back. I have to go to my office.
We'll just take a 5-minute recess, so I appreciate that. And we
No problem.
appreciate that you doing that. We're doing this to continue what we've been doing for 2 years with the businesses to help them get through COVID. But now we have to charge a certain amount for those city assets. So there is some work to get that
Yeah.
done.
I
And this
believe
is the busiest week of the year for restaurants, and they're asking us to help them get open.
Yeah.
I have a-
There's
Mr. Mayor.
there's 4 applications, I think, at least right now, waiting, just
It will relate
waiting.
to 4 applications, Alderman Gay.
Point of order, because it also says in the steps to follow a request for seasonal or whatever to rent public property, step 4, the city council would have to final approve of the lease. So you all are making the I'm assuming a signed lease. We wouldn't just approve a blank lease, not understanding what business would be applying for the said application. Shouldn't the businesses apply, we review their application and approve it that way? Why would we approve a blank lease?
So this is designed so we don't have to individually do that. So it's designed that way.
Okay,
So-
second question. Am I assuming that it is correct that this one-time fee of $6,500 is included on top of the space rental?
What's
I
that?
don't think that's a park.
Incorporate capital facility fees into the parklet lease rate. Says the capital facilities fee is designed to cover the additional public water and sewer costs of the city associated with expanding footprint of that restaurant. This one-time fee is $6,500 for 10 seats.
That's included in
The city
the-
manager, clarify,
Yeah.
please.
That's included in the daily rate. So it was broken down and included, added on to the parking rate. That's included.
So if I was to add up the Appendix B, for example, if I'm just in Eastport, the $19.10 a day plus X would cover the, okay.
So we're going to take a 5-minute recess, but Alderman Pindell Charles.
Just one quick thing, Alderman Gay on page 2, line 17, 18, it says Article 3, Section A of the Charter of the City of Annapolis requires the passage of an ordinance to authorize any lease. So the ordinance has to pass in order to authorize the lease, is how I read it. Page 2, lines 17 and 18.
As a lawyer in training, I'll trust I'll trust the attorney.
Thank you.
You going to law school?
Do you guys want to take 5 minutes? Anybody? Yep.
So moved, if we need to.
Thank you. We will resume the meeting at 9:52. 8:52, sorry. 8:52, sorry. Feels
Are we
like
still in
9:52.
discussion?
We're still in discussion on O-16-22. I don't think we did move suspended the rules, right? Right. No.
So can I make a motion?
Alderman Shamar already made a motion to suspend the rules, and he got a second.
Okay,
Okay.
right, that's what I thought. So
But the
we're-
question is, but we could just do it anyway.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question.
Yes, Alderman Pitnell-Charles.
Yeah, Mr. Lyles, is this pretty much boilerplate?
I don't use those terms, but the document is like leases we have done in the past in the historic district. It emanates for the most part the kind of lease terms we had for the market space, with slight variations for time and cost and blanks for the imposition of the name of a particular restaurant or establishment.
Okay.
But it has all the indemnification provisions that we put in these kinds of leases for leased land.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I just want to, I guess, offer some hopefully clarification for the public. And if I'm incorrect, please correct me. So we've already authorized the Parklet program, and rules and regulations have been developed by staff. They were reviewed by the Rules and Government Committee, and this ordinance is coming to us because we have to, any kind of leasing of city property, which in this case would be city streets or potentially sidewalk, right, has to go before the council. And so this approves the template, but it also, this ordinance essentially approves a blanket kind of approval for the leases that are going to be for the businesses that are going to be using this lease through the Parklet program. So we don't get every single lease from X, Y, and Z business. This is going to be considered at least council approval for utilizing our property.
Correct.
in this fashion.
Correct. Since we had so many requests, we thought and they would all be the same lease with the exception of the person or the establishment, that it would be easier for the council to approve leasing of land in this form. So that was our proposal.
And the Parklet program, is that limited in the city based on, or is this applied to the entire city?
It applies to the entire city. Anybody that is going to lease land and use a parklet on that land has to have a lease.
Okay. But in particular, it's mostly Ward 1 who has a lot of the restaurants with the streets nearby. Ward 8 as well has one or two. I don't in Ward 7. I don't know if Ward 2 has any that might be utilizing this program. I don't know if the rest of us have any that would apply, but just FYI in that regard. So I'm good with, in light of all that, I'm good with suspending the rules to pass this tonight.
The recommended prices from Appendix B are not consistent with those of the lease on page 5. So it's by cents, but if the objective is to collect the appropriate amount of funding that you think would add up to what is sufficient, then that should be changed in the lease. And additionally, on the record now, because I asked this off the record, I'm correct in assuming that the recommendations from what the Rules of City Government Committee reviewed under incorporated capital facility fees into the Parklet lease, again, it says this one-time fee is $6,500 for 10 seats. An Annapolis parking space turned into a seasonal park can also accommodate roughly 10 seats. Current sidewalk cafe holders have to pay $3,200 or $3,250, which assumes that their out dining will operate 6 months out of the year. And so I'm assuming that these rates, and that's been confirmed by the city attorney, are supposed to add up to those totals. So that should probably be fixed on page 5. Am I correct or not?
You are correct.
That's my only recommendation to change in the lease then.
Mr. City Attorney?
Yes, we wrote the lease so that the basic terms would be covered. We know that the amount charged and the establishment to rent would be changed under the rules and regulations to be established by the team that's doing the Parklet program. So that these things are like placeholders now, knowing that there is a proper adjustment financially for those that Office of Law is not privy to at the time that we drafted the agreement.
You okay with that? No.
I guess, yeah. I'm not gonna vote on it.
Just have a motion and a second to suspend the rules. Oh, sorry, Alderman Annette, I apologize.
So I just want to make clear, the Rules Committee did not review this lease. This is something that was developed subsequent to that.
Correct.
I think the thing that makes me uncomfortable is any restaurant now in the city can come in and automatically be approved for up to 2 parklets. So there won't be any further review. If we're going to suspend the rules and say this is the standard lease and these are the terms that set the dollar amount, as Alderman Gay correctly points out on page 5, that's the end of it. That'll all be done, I guess, by planning staff, by economic development staff. So every restaurant in the city, including everyone in Ward 8, we have one in Ward 8 that has come in, I know, and wants to do this. But we're now blindly approving, in theory, every restaurant in the city to have public rental space with these terms and conditions.
I think the trained staff, but Mr. City Attorney.
What we have before you is a template lease to be used in case there is an application, and in case the application is approved, and in case the city administration decides that the use is appropriate. This is the standard template. So the two don't go together, as you indicated. The lease is the lease.
Right.
It doesn't override any part of the program, rules, regulations established by the administration or by the rules of city government that were reviewed. This is just, if there's going to be a lease, this is the template for that.
So just to make sure I understand, as we go forward in this rulemaking process and these attendant leases, if the council should decide that too many parklets are being leased and too much public space is being used up, the only way we could affect that would be to write city code that would put minimums or somehow change the parklet program by ordinance.
If you wanted to stop leasing city space for this purpose, you would come up with a resolution or an ordinance that would cease the program.
Right. I don't think we can do it by resolution.
Well, in this case, 2 different things are happening, right? There is the approval to lease land, which is done by ordinance. If the city council decided it didn't want to do a parklet program again, which incorporated some leasing of city land, then you'd have to tell the administration that you wanted to stop the parklet program, and you could do that by resolution. And with the cessation of the parklet program is a cessation of any more leasing of land without another ordinance that then allowed the leasing of the land. But once the leases are signed or executed, the administration takes over and the lease has a term. Right. And it could be terminated. But the thing about ordinances relating to leases is you give approval to do a lease. You don't give approval or disapproval to stop a lease. That's governed by the terms of the lease, or if the administration chose to terminate for convenience of the government or default, like money isn't coming in, you've given the administration the authority to stop something that the city finds is not in the city's best interest.
So I want to object to the fact that this was not in Granicus apparently until today, or it came in sometime, because I was operating on the Granicus that was promulgated Friday. This is a lot to take in at the last minute, and certainly this lease is a lot to evaluate. So I am most likely going to vote to suspend the rules, but I do want to note that this is a major giveaway of authorities and powers, and I really am not totally clear with what you said, Mr. City Attorney. If the council decides that this wasn't a good idea after all, that too many of our street spaces are evaporating because everyone's coming in and taking advantage of this, it's not clear to me how we stop that from happening.
I think I can address Alderman Arnett, what you're
Well,
talking
I'd really rather hear it from the city attorney, though, with all due respect, because I think that's important for us to know. We're letting the genie out of the bottle, and I want to know what are our powers to get the genie back in the bottle if for whatever reason we decide this program isn't in the best interest of the city.
You've got a couple things going on. You can, by resolution, give to the administration the sense that the parklet program is at an end, and then there's no more leasing, except to the extent that leases are valid and have been executed. You might decide in that resolution that those leases will continue, but no new ones. You can decide by ordinance that we shall never do this again. And you can say we will never lease these properties, and that will be an ordinance.
Or change the parameters.
Or change the parameters.
Right.
So you can do that either by resolution or ordinance, depending on the type, terms, and conditions of the thing that you want to impart to the administration, and how much you want to hold the administration to that particular directive. Resolutions do have a period which they expire. Ordinances will not. You can, by ordinance, put in sections of street that will never be leased. Resolution, however, is effective from the standpoint of the thing that you want to impart to the administration, that we will stop the program, and that's sufficient to give the sense of the council with respect to that.
And then the last question, the 3 exhibits are the things that each applicant would fulfill to satisfy the rulemaking that was done by the city staff.
Yes.
Thank you.
So I'm going to go over to Alderman Padel-Charles and Alderman Tierney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Savage.
Alderman Arnett,
And remember,
can
we just have come through COVID, where for 2 years, any of the restaurants could have done any of the things that we're talking about, and we saw that it wasn't a stampede there.
Alderman Arnett, can I try to address your concerns? I'm looking at 2 particular portions of the lease. On page 3, the safety barriers, and there might be more. And on page 8, the insurance. There may be some provisions within this lease that pretty much would thwart a business, that they would be they would not have the ability to proceed to have a parklet. It might be their insurance might thwart them from doing that, for lack of a better term. It might be their inability to provide required safety barriers. Now, it might be some other instances within this lease that come within that component, but I'm just saying there would be, I'm sure, some insurance companies who may not insure the business. There may be some safety barriers that the business can not comply with, and that may knock out, for lack of a better term, some of the businesses that you're talking about. So these are the safeguards, the guardrails. There may be some others in here, but I'm just picking out those 2 that come readily to my attention.
So I'm so glad you raised that, because HPC has come up with rules for the kinds of things that can go into parklets that are specific to the historic district. And I think safety barriers and the kind of safety barriers is part of that. So I just so uncomfortable because there's so many complications and moving wheels here. HPC is controlling barriers, umbrellas, all kinds of other things, which when we reviewed those, we heard from that. I thought that was great for downtown, but this is broader and is actually in many ways contrary to what I think the HBC rules were. So, I mean, I think we've got quite a melange going on here of various different things, and
I'm comfortable with it based on listening to our city attorney, but also just those couple of things that I mentioned. So that's just my opinion.
Thank you. Alderman Attorney.
Thank you. I think, please, my colleagues, bear with me. I'm going to read from the city website the Parklet application process. I really want your attention so that you know what the applicant goes through and the order. And the order is important because the lease is the last thing after they go through this process. So the applicant is referred to the steps to follow. And those steps are to provide their business contact info, period through which they propose, the number of parking spaces, space number, closest street address, et cetera, the daily lease rate, they have to agree by the area in which they are in. Again, I'm reading from the city website. And then we come to the application review process. Your application will be reviewed by the following offices and departments: Annapolis Parking, Department of Public Works, Office of the Fire Marshal, Office of the Law, other departments as relevant. And this is the important part. If your request is approved by the aforementioned city departments, it will be submitted to the City Council for lease approval. What we're doing instead is offering you a template of the lease. Restaurants, to address your concern, Alderman Arnett, restaurants located in the historic district will then need final approval from the Historic Preservation Commission. Also, if you are interested in serving alcohol in your parklet, an updated Alcohol Beverage Control Board license is required to expand the footprint of your existing license. And then it proceeds to say what the steps are in securing that approval from the Alcohol Beverage Control Board, which is about 4 more steps. And then if there's any questions, they can ask Cindy Gates. So I just want you to feel comfortable, and the public to feel comfortable, more importantly, specifically to my downtown residents, that these applications go through a very thorough vetting. And the lease is only the vehicle to lease public space and all of the city requirements in doing so. This is more specific to insurance and all the legalese that my colleague Alderwoman Pindle Charles spoke to, that's pertinent to a lease for public space. So I hope that makes you feel more comfortable in approving this portion of the process.
so I do think this is a ready, fire, aim exercise because the Alcoholic Beverage Control Board has already issued licenses. So, you know, I understand the pressure, Mr. Mayor, I really do, and I am going to vote to suspend the rules, but holy cow. I mean, there's a lot of things that are flying by us right now, and a lot of things that have already been granted before we do this. So, you know, we better hurry up and approve the lease because they've already got their license for their alcohol and their parklets. So
I do, you know, this is where you're punished by competency. Stephen Bryce has worked for what now, Mr. Jarrell? How many months on this?
At least 6.
Right.
At least 6.
At least 6. He has a really thorough parklet application process. He did not know about the rules and regulations a little bit later. That's what delayed the process. I think he wasn't aware of that. So he did go before Rules and City Government. We got the HPC guidelines approved by the City Council. That was a huge step. And I assume they went to the Alcohol Review Board because there was nothing stopping them from doing so. But this is the last step.
Thank
It's
you,
been a
Alderman Gay.
long
Is next.
ordeal.
Alderman Gay, then Alderman Savage.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. My first question is, because I agree with a lot of what was mentioned. Are you able to abstain on a vote for it has to be unanimous? Okay. If you look, and I get it too, that you want to pass this for the commissioning week, but as I'm reading this, and again, I could be wrong, maybe the city attorney could correct me, some of this reads as if their individual leases are supposed to come before the city council for approval. As you just went down the list, I'll go back to it, Appendix A. The Annapolis parking, or the first step, the application is routed to the following. Annapolis Parking to provide a financial assessment and determination of the cost of renting to the public spaces. What you all have attempted to do is just create a blanket form of finance for the businesses based off of the district that they're in, historic, Eastport, or the Arts District, which I think is fine, but then you have to get into the smaller details, because I believe in the last meeting you said this would also qualify for retail spaces. This lease to me reads as it's solely for restaurants. Has there been any thought or consideration in that? I mean, maybe I overlooked retail in this, but that is another thing. And again, it says, number 4, the city council would have final approval of the lease. I feel odd just sticking this out there, as the alderman from Ward 8 said, and just saying, okay, apply, we've already approved the lease. I'm assuming that step 1, 2, 3, and 4 is, at that point, you'd have already gotten the lease. So I'm confused there, and I'm also confused as it relates to retail spaces, which the alderwoman has mentioned in a number of meetings would be considered parklet. They could apply for parklet. So the same rules and regulations apply, and would the same cost apply, considering that they wouldn't be having seats. They'd be having racks.
The whereas provisions are not contractual terms. They're precatory language that sets the stage for what is coming in the terms and conditions. The whereas provisions for different establishments can be inserted. This is supposed to be a general lease, not dependent on the type of business that comes in front of them.
So if I pass this lease or if we pass this tonight, and let's say X business on Main Street wants to come forward tomorrow, that is a retail space, would they pay the $6,500 for the water and sewage fee? Would they have to pay that as well? Would they be required to pay the $100 parklet space, even though they're not expanding the access or occupancy numbers? Would they still have to pay for that as well?
That would be covered under the rules and regulations that you're authorizing with this legislation, the department, the administration to develop.
Okay, I need an example, because what you're saying is, where is it covered at? I'm sorry.
It would be the rules and regulations covered by the administration as they develop those rules and regulations. You're authorizing them to lease the property and to develop rules and regulations specific or associated with the property leasing.
Where is that in the whereas?
It's not in the where, it's in the legislation. It's in the ordinance.
Which page is that in the legislation?
The last page of the legislation at the bottom. Section 3, before Section 4, page 2.
The standardized lease agreement, incorporates the city's.
No, it says, and be it further established and ordained by the Annapolis City Council that the city manager shall, within 60 days from passage of this ordinance, promulgate all necessary rules and regulations to effectuate and implement this ordinance.
So is that basically saying, like, after this, the city manager's office could create essentially the rules that as they see fit for individual businesses and stuff? So we'd be releasing authority from the council and turning it over to the city manager?
Well, you've already released the promulgation of rules and regulations to the administration. You've done that already. And so if there are new rules and regulations to be established, they would come back through the same rules and regulations process for the promulgation and implementation of rules and regulations.
Awesome. I appreciate that so much, Mr. City Attorney. Let the record show to the general public, I will vote because obviously there is something pressing. Some restaurant out there has to have their seats up, which I'm fine with. But this is not the way that we should be doing things, getting a 20-page lease the night of we're getting an ordinance without clear understanding. And obviously we have a very intelligent city attorney here, so I'm trusting that all of this is fair, but there are certain things that we should have been able to discuss or been privy to that rules and city government discussed prior to this meeting. But I will vote to suspend the rules.
Alderman Savage?
So just first of all, on abstaining, my understanding of abstention is that essentially means you're not voting at all. But when the code says unanimous, does that mean everybody has to vote yes? Or does that mean that everybody who votes has to vote yes? Because if you're not voting, then, because I'm just saying, I think in the past we've had people abstain when we've suspended. I can't, or maybe not. But anyway, I'm kind of curious on that in that regard.
An abstention is a non-vote. Yeah. And so unanimous of those voting is what it would be required. It's just the same as if you decided to leave and go home. Right. The unanimous, those present would be voting, and that we need a unanimous number of those. An abstention is a not present. Same thing. Okay, so they're essentially leaving the room. Yes, you can leave the room.
Okay. So another question for the city attorney, because I'm looking at the lease. I don't understand all of the contract language, but on page 13, number 23, it says termination for convenience. Does this mean, it says either party may terminate this lease for convenience for any reason and at any time by providing 15 calendar days prior written notice to the other party. So does this mean, for example, if the council, to Alderman Arnett's point, if the council decides that, or if the alderwoman who decides she has too many parklets, that she can say, okay, we're going to leave to scale back a few of these. And so essentially I'm asking, does this give the staff a way to terminate a lease if it proves problematic?
Or for other reasons, the council might decide that you don't want the parklet program anymore.
Right.
You want to sell the street to someone else. And if that happened, you could terminate for convenience. The administration also has the ability with this particular provision to terminate for the convenience of the city. Mm-hmm. The administration operates in the best interest of the city. It could be that the city's losing money. The city needs the streets. There's a safety issue. And those things would constantly be reassessed by the administration. And if in the best interest of the city, they thought it best to terminate the agreement, that's what this provision covers. And that's a standard provision in all of our agreements. Okay. Because as a government, we need that flexibility.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's good to know. I mean, that gives me at least the assurance that we have it out. Thank you.
Alderman Arnett.
Last question, I promise. Do we already have 4 completed leases? Is that my understanding? 4 or 5?
No applications. A lease is the last step, as I said.
So the applications are in?
No leases have been signed yet.
Okay.
So we do have applications, but no leases have been signed. So if you approve it tonight, at least one will be signed tomorrow, is the intent.
So
that's preserved, right?
We don't have a financial impact statement. I mean, we're never going to know what we're gathering from these leases. Is there some way that we can at least get some reporting from the administration on the leases when they're signed and the amount? Thank you. I appreciate that. And I was sure you would say yes, but I had to ask it. Yes. All right. All right. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, so we have first and a second to suspend the rules. Is that a roll call or is it? All those in favour say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Is that okay?
Now, next thing.
Okay.
Suspend the rules, right?
Can I get a motion to adopt no.
It's funny, my Robert rule says two-thirds vote. I don't know where the unanimous came from.
Yes, it's the vote for the people present.
Alderman Gay? Does that count?
He's not present.
I move.
If anyone is going to be abstaining, they have to say they're abstaining. So you may want to do that again since the vote is unclear at this point.
Okay, vote is unclear. All those in favour of suspending the rules?
Well, first of all, anyone that's, you may want to clarify, anyone that's abstaining needs to say that on the record.
Anybody that's abstaining, please say it on the record.
But if you abstain, then do we or do we not have a consent?
If you abstain, then you're a non-present, and you can vote unanimously with those who are present, who are voting.
Anyone abstaining? Okay, all those in favour of suspending the rules say aye. Aye. Aye.
Aye.
All those against say no. Okay.
And you are the presider, so you can decide if you heard the motion carry.
Motion carries. Can I get a motion to adopt O-16-22 on second reader?
So moved.
Second. I think we have to do a roll call for that.
Yes. Mayor Buckley.
Yes.
Alderwoman Pendle Charles.
Aye.
Alderman Shonda Meyer.
Aye.
Alderman Gay.
Aye.
Alderman Savage.
Aye.
Alderman Arnett.
Aye.
Alderwoman Tierney.
Aye.
Alderwoman O'Neill.
Aye.
So that ordinance carries.
All right, that didn't take long. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next item on the agenda.
Sure. The next item on the agenda goes back to SA
025
that we pulled off.
25.
of the consent calendar, 025.
Mr. Mayor, the next item is supplemental appropriation over 50,000, SA 2622, right?
Yep.
Parking
SA
fund revenue.
2522?
Oh, no, I'm
SA
sorry.
25.
No, I'm sorry. SA 2522, grant revenue, county grant revenue.
Could I get a motion for that, please?
Second.
Second, Alderman Gay.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The reason I pulled it off, and I never pull anything off the consent calendar without a reason, is because I think it's important for the council to understand that there's been negotiations with staff and both the county as it relates to this. This is for the No Harm VIP. They're giving us $30,000. That'll be gone like this. They have to spend it before the end of the fiscal year. The county has not committed to the $600,000 that you've seen in the budget book. So get that number out of your head. And we've included as a sign of goodwill to the city council in our in the amendments that I proposed, $80,000 for the No Harm VIP program. And I just thought it was important that the council understand that we've made that commitment to the city and to the staff in order to move forward with the grant process that they are in the process of creating. The mayor's chief of staff has indicated to me that there has been no final commitment of the $600,000+ again. And so it's important that if we pass and accept this fund transfer, we understand that we have to be willing to put money in our amendments towards the No Harm VIP program as well.
Alderman Pendle Charles.
Mr. Mayor, correct me if I'm wrong, Alderman Gay. Are you saying that we should not accept this 30,000?
No, I'm saying accept it, but understand that we would have to is put money towards the program as well.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the clarification.
Director Dickinson.
I think we need some clarification on this. This $30,000 was set up to do an assessment this year. The county's doing assessment of the needs of the program, and that's why they haven't finalized the dollars for the program for next year, is because they're going to use the results of this assessment to make those determinations. And the amendment that Alderman Gay put forth to the 23 budget is not the council's action or commitment yet. It's just an amendment by one of the alder people. So the chief of staff is here, and she's the one who's been working with the county. You may, if you have questions on what this is for and how it affects next year's funding.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate it. I thought I had the floor. If the chief of staff would like to come forward and clarify what anything that I've stated incorrectly, she can. That is how it was explained to me, the city council person, and that is why the amendment was introduced. I'm not sure the position the finance department has taken. They've taken a number of positions on my amendments even before we've gotten to amendment deliberation, and so I'll turn it over to the chief of staff.
Thanks, everybody. Kate Pettit, Chief of Staff to Meg Aben-Buckley. I would like to just clarify one point there. So we are in a long process with the county. The county health department are very keen to support health initiatives to prevent violence, and working with us, we have we've developed a prototype of a program which we have called No Harm. It was trialled here from the Mayor's office last year. The trial has proved successful, and we are now working with the county to look at what is the right model going forward to cement what we achieved through the trial and to ensure that we have a program that works here in Annapolis for our particular needs. But of course, the county has a bigger need as well. They're looking for a program that they can apply across their area as well. The assessment money that is on the table tonight, the $30,000, is to run an assessment with a program called Cure Violence. It's a proven model for violence prevention and interruption, and it's already operating in a number of communities across America, including Baltimore. And so the assessment is an essential step in order to complete our model for No Harm. And once that assessment is completed, we plan to work with the county to apply for further grant money, which will allow us, excuse me, which will allow us to implement the program in full going forward. But we need the assessment first to develop the model with Cure Violence and then take it forward. So yes, there is a grant application that needs to go in for the next financial year, but the county is ready to support this $30,000 immediately so that we can progress the assessment.
Any other questions? Okay, all those in favour, say aye. 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 Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Kate. Mr. City Attorney, please present the next on the agenda.
The agenda is completed, Mr. Mayor.
Is there anything else for good order? Alderman Tierney.
Alderman Gay, I don't think you meant to be disrespectful to the finance director in your comments to her. She was only explaining where she needed to. So I just thought that was a little bit uncalled for.
I also think I was not being disrespectful. I was simply explaining how it was presented to me. That's what the staff has said to me as early as 5 minutes ago before we even voted on this. And so all I was doing was telling how it was said to me.
Okay, thank you.
Anybody else? Thank you. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
Can I get a second? All those in favour say aye. Aye. All right, meeting adjourned.